Is that a trick question? This man was a bona fide scrub. Bona fide scrub.
This dude, I believe he's a bona fide superstar right now.
Right. Oh, well, of course, it's all about winning, baby.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of the Star and Scrub NBA podcast, the first of our team previews. We're starting with the Pacific Division, but joining me, as he does every episode, ready for some Warriors bashing and some LeBron loving. Lee, how are we on this Friday night?
Oh, couldn't be better, mate. I'm glad you know me better than most. I love to laugh at the Warriors and love LeBron, so very much looking forward to it. Only 3 weeks till training camp starts, and then the season, not much after that, so it's a great time to be an NBA fan, as I always say.
Yeah, an absolutely fascinating season ahead. We're going to be going through all the teams, as I said, starting the Pacific Division, but we're also going to be giving out some of our best bets as well and bringing a bit of a betting aspect to this. And I will say, in seasons past, well, last season we did kind of some prediction episodes around this kind of thing, and I did not place any bets whatsoever, but I am holding firm to the belief that come the end of these podcasts, the 6 that we'll do, I will place some bets and I will let you guys know about it because, look, at the end of the day, usually I look at the NBA regular season. I don't like futures bets because I just think I've got my money tied up in that for 6-7 months and, you know, I'm waiting on the results kind of thing. But a couple of months ago, I got into crypto kind of thing and, you know, on one hand, I've got, you know, a couple of K, you know, kind of thing in Bitcoin and I'm happy to wait. I'm happy to wait 10, 15 years to see where it lands. So if I'm happy enough to do that, then surely I've got to be just thinking to myself, yeah, I can put a little bit of investment into some futures bets around the NBA and see how the NBA regular season plays out. But without further ado, let's get in to the Pacific Division. We'll go in alphabetical order and start with my Golden State Warriors. 30 teams to go through. We're starting with my team. I don't know if I'm happy or sad about that. But first of all, let's get into the ins and outs. So the ins, Andre Iguodala, Otto Porter Jr., Nemanja Bjelica, and through the draft, Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. And the big one, I think, was actually re-signing Steph Curry to an extra 4-year max contract. He's now re-signed for 5 years, which means the pressure, I guess, of performing this season is off a little bit, I guess, given the fact that Steph could have been a free agent at the end of this season. The outs, Kent Bazemore, Jordan Bell, Kelly Oubre, Nico Mannion, and Eric Pascal. The over-under line for the Warriors is 47.5. Now, my first question to you, Lee, is a lot has been made of the Warriors and their roster construction and how they're configuring this team around 3 Hall of Fame players in Curry, Thompson, and Green, and combining them with 4 really elite young players in Moody and Kuminga and Wiseman, and I'm even going to throw Jordan Poole into that mix. How do you, from an outsider's, you know, a non-fan perspective, how do you view the Warriors' goals of successfully combining the elite core experience with the higher level young talent?
Well, I think you did the best with what you could. Obviously, roster is pretty expensive at the moment, so you didn't have a heaps of cash space to throw around. And I think your draft couldn't have gone any better. I think Kuminga's got almost a Rookie of the Year campaign from the way he played in Summer League. But I'm hesitant to say that you're 100% title contenders. In that, I think you should have kind of swung for gone even crazier with the punts and the trades and everything. Because I wanted to ask you, are you comfortable with this roster just as title contenders? Do you reckon you can make a run at this stage?
Yeah, well, I guess the question at the end of the day, is it championship or bust? I mean, what's the element of success here? How do we view, if, you know, at the end of the season, how do we view the Warriors having a successful season or not? Is it returning to the playoffs where they haven't been for 2 years? Is it winning a playoff series? Is it making the Western Conference Finals? Is it winning a championship? Like, to me, winning a championship, that's a lofty expectation, but, I mean, there are fans out there that think, hey, the best player in franchise history is here right now. Anything less than a championship is a failure. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think you have to go back to at a bare minimum title contenders because you just said 3 Hall of Famers. You've got the franchise's best player, and everyone's in their prime, and you've done it before. So with these 3, so why shouldn't you be able to do it again? But it's more because I wanted to bring you back because my question was more surrounded why I keep asking, do you reckon you're title contenders? Because actually there was a quote by Draymond Green himself who said, getting draft picks and placing them next to two All-Stars, that doesn't work. I think he was talking about the Wizards at the time. Yeah. And when I look at the past few title contenders, so obviously the Bucks swung big with Drew Holiday. I think they gave up 3 first-round picks. Obviously the Raptors, they only knew Kawhi was going to be there for a year. They still swung big. And the Lakers gave up their entire future for Anthony Davis, and it paid dividends. And obviously the Nets are trying to do the same thing. They went for Harden even when they were already title contenders. So obviously Simmons has been in a lot of trade rumors. And I'm just wondering, should you kind of be like them, just swing big and just figure it out from there, just swing big?
Yeah, I would argue they're swinging big as it is, trying to combine this, experienced core with young players, because it's something that hasn't necessarily been done too often. As you say, most teams that are contending usually put their chips into the table and try and get another elite level player, but they're obviously trying to be not only title contenders now, but also look to the future, 10, 15 years time, when there's no more Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. But yeah, the question is, for the Lakers, Anthony Davis was on the board. Anthony Davis wanted to go to LA. Kawhi Leonard for Toronto was available. Now, Drew Holiday isn't the level of those two guys, but I don't think the Bucks gave up too much in order to get him. They gave up, 3 future first-round picks. Well, we know the Bucks are going to be good kind of thing over the period, so they're not going to be high picks necessarily. So I guess the question is, what high-level player is on the board that the Warriors could target that actually makes sense?
It's tricky because the early scenario is the Draymond for like Simmons, and I can't see Draymond being traded and cap space at all. So yeah, the availability of players, but I don't know. I'm just looking at it because you and I applaud teams who kind of just go all out for this, and I'm just wondering whether the Warriors need to maximize these. Not just worry about what's going on now, and but at the same time, you were talking about the business side of that you have to really think about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been kind of worried with how much impact and influence Joe Lacob's having in the front office, but he's the owner of the team, and he's got to look forward. As much as we want to try and worry about how many championships Steph Curry can win, because a lot of times for fans, the player, and in this case Steph Curry, is actually more important than the team, and it's almost about how many championships can we get Steph Curry. Not how many championships can we win, can the Golden State Warriors win. How many chips can Steph Curry win to, cement his legacy as one of the all-time great players? But Joe Lacob as an owner has to look past that and think, what am I going to do in 10, 15 years' time when Steph Curry is no longer here? How am I going to put bums on seats and make money? Because this is a business for him at the end of the day. And that's why I think he's heavily involved in wanting to have Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman and these other young players. And I honestly believe that the front office think that one of Kuminga or Wiseman will be a star. And they're not sure which one at this stage, but I think that they're very hesitant to trade both of those players even one of those players, because I think they believe that one of them can turn into a star. One of them could turn into a better player than Ben Simmons. So I don't think either of those two would even be involved in a Ben Simmons trade, to be honest. And then you've got to look at the salary matching purposes in any potential Simmons trade. It either has to be, one of the max 4 guys in terms of, the 4 guys on close to max level money. It's not going to be Steph, obviously. It's not going to be Klay. It comes down to Wiggins or Draymond. Wiggins, yeah, we all know that Ben Simmons is a better basketball than Andrew Wiggins, but the Warriors just have a lack of depth behind Wiggins at the wing position. And if you bring in Simmons next to Draymond Green and pair them together, you're pigeonholing them to play at the 4 and 5 spot. You just are. Neither of them are a small forward. So that basically opens up a hole at small forward. Who are you filling in there? Well, Otto Porter Jr. might be ideal if you could guarantee that he was going to be healthy and he could play 30 minutes a night and shoot 40% from 3. But he's coming off about 2 or 3 injury-plagued seasons. You can't guarantee that. So that's why I'd actually be surprised if Andrew Wiggins gets traded at all, let alone for Ben Simmons. And for Draymond Green, look, for your future, I might consider it. I might do it. But I don't think that the Warriors would do it. I don't think, and the main thing is I don't think Steph Curry would do it, because Steph Curry knows how good he is feeding and playing off Draymond Green, and he's comfortable with that. he doesn't know how he's going to play next to Ben Simmons, and he's already coming in and playing alongside a bunch of rookies. He doesn't want to have to ingratiate himself into another player kind of thing and take away from the chemistry that has been built up with Draymond Green over nearly 10 years now kind of thing. So I just don't think that would happen. I mean, I reckon every Warriors staff member, every member in the front office could say yes to a Draymond Green for Ben Simmons trade. But if Steph Curry were to say no, then it doesn't matter what that other 100 people think. I just think it would fall through and it's not going to happen. So I just don't think a Ben Simmons moves happen. I don't think a Ben Simmons move happens, sorry. And I just don't see a player out there at the moment. It's all well and good to say, get rid of your young assets. There's no Anthony Davis on the market. There's no Kawhi Leonard on the market. There's just not that level of player. So it's got to make sense for them. And right now it doesn't. But anyway, I could talk about the Warriors all day. We could go on for 3 hours about this.
Well, where do
their over-under win line, sorry?
So I was just wondering where you have them finishing then, if this is the roster that's going to go into the next season. Well, how confident are you where they finish?
Yeah, so their over-under win line is 47.5. I've got them finishing 5th, which is going to be around that mark in terms of wins, I think. For me, I might say slightly overs as an optimistic bias Warriors fan, but if I'm being dead set serious to the punters out there, it's a no bet. I'm steering well clear because I think they could finish anywhere between 2nd and 8th or 9th. So it's just, I'm steering clear. Where did you have them? Because on our prediction podcast last year, I had them 6th, you had them 12th. How you answer this might determine whether we finish this podcast, because I might walk out of here if this does go well.
See if I have a job next week. No, I'm going slightly under, but I have you 6th. I think only reason is I think you're going to be affected at the start of the season when you're getting all these new players used to the system, and Clay's not back until I think December's optimist. I think is the plan at the moment. So I think they might hurt you for a little bit, but still making playoffs, and people will watch every game, I reckon, regardless of the season Steph put together last year. I think he'd still be must watch TV.
Yeah, and with this young talent, there's going to be games where they're down or up by 25 going into the fourth quarter, but the games are still going to be really watchable because Kuminga and Wiseman are going to be out there, and it's going to be interesting to see how they develop. I will say quickly, I was on the way home tonight, I was listening to the latest podcast from The Athletic. They were going through their Western Conference power rankings. They got to about 5th or 6th, and I was like, oh yeah, I expect the Warriors to be here. I think that's about a realistic mark for them, and they just continue to go through the teams. They got to 8th, and they said Memphis, and I flat out nearly crashed the car, to be honest.
Memphis.
And
that's too far.
And then they said they had the Warriors 9th, and they were going through all these different points and whatnot, but what they said, basically, I stopped listening to them once they said, Kelly Oubre Jr. was going to be a massive loss. Okay. I mean, if you think Oubre is going to be a massive loss for the Warriors, then you either didn't watch the Warriors play at all last year, or you actually didn't read into any kind of basic statistical analysis whatsoever, because they were just so much better when he was off the floor. But anyway, it is what it is. As I said, we could speak about the Warriors all day. But next up, we'll get on to the first of the Los Angeles teams. That's the Clippers. All right, next up, we've got the Los Angeles Clippers. Going to be minus Kawhi Leonard for probably the majority, if not all, the regular season next year. Their ins and outs, comes Eric Bledsoe, BJ Boston, Keon Johnson, Justice Winslow, Jason Preston, and they've re-signed Reggie Jackson, Nick Batum, and Kawhi Leonard, even though he won't be part of the majority of the season next year. We'll see if he maybe comes back for playoffs should they get there. The outs go Pat Bev, Rajon Rondo, Patrick Patterson, and Boogie Cousins, who I think is still a free agent. Not sure if anyone's going to pick him up. The over-under line for them is 45.5. My question to you, Lee, is without Kawhi Leonard, do you have faith in Paul George leading a team to a successful position, I guess, what we can determine as a successful position? And as part of that, will Reggie Jackson's playoff run be replicated across an entire regular season?
I do have faith in Paul George. He's obviously the NBA fans' favorite person to meme, but I'm just looking at what happened when Kawhi did go down, and they were going up against some tough teams, and he was playing some fantastic basketball. I mean, he averaged in those 8 games with Kawhi, averaged 29, 11, 5. The shooting splits weren't great, but that's just a product of obviously being the number one scoring option. So I do have, and I've seen him do it before. I'm a Miami Heat fan. I'm traumatized from a 23-year-old Paul George just going toe-to-toe against my Heatles back in the early part of the decade. But so I do have faith in him. And I just feel like the Clippers are starting to almost just know their roles. Like Ty Lue, I feel like became just comfortable with being the coach. Reggie Jackson obviously was becoming a serviceable point guard, and like people, they were a great 3-point shooting team. People were really defining their roles, and it was. You think about the Clippers. You know them very well, being a Warriors fan. The 2019, everyone just knew they weren't superstar talented, but everyone just knew their role and played their role. And obviously next year expectations are going to be really low with no Kawhi.
Yeah,
and people will just have their roles and they'll play it. So with Paul George, he's got every tool to be a top 10 player. So. Because my question is very similar to what you just asked me, though. For him to, because I've seen some like future bets about him possibly even being an MVP candidate next year. What would he have to do to be MVP to you? In terms of team finishing? You can throw in stats if you'd like, but what would you have to see for him to be an MVP contender or possibly even be the MVP?
Yeah, well, he finished top 3 with Oklahoma a couple of years back, didn't he? So
he did.
I kind of look at Paul George and I just don't really envisage MVP, but yeah, he was top 3 a few years ago. Like, he wasn't too far away. Look, I think to win an MVP, you've usually got to finish the regular season as a team in the top 4. So I'd probably say 4th, maybe 5th, depending on how he goes from an individual standpoint. I think statistically, maybe 37-3 on 50, 40, 90. And you're going to...
37
Sorry, 30 points, sorry. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. You started laughing at me there. I mean, that's... No, sorry. Let me clarify. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. On 50, 40, 90, which is still very generous and optimistic, and I don't think he'll do that. But if we're talking about potentially being an MVP and being in that conversation, I think that's what he has to do.
Yeah, okay, thank God. It's a little bit more forgiving, 37 points. Everything's primed for him to be, because now he's definitely going to be the number one player. He's 31, which is smack bang in the middle of your prime. So everything's primed in that position. But you said their line was 45.5, I believe. Overs, unders, how'd you play that?
It's an unders for me, but I'm not sure. It's a no bet. It's again. I'm sorry to be boring after I said that about the Warriors. I'm not betting on it. It's not. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, right. And then in terms of team finishing, where do you have them?
This is kind of, if I had a hot take for this episode, this is probably it. I have them 8th, so they're making the playoffs. But I don't see the talent there around PG. Like, I don't have faith in the fact that Reggie Jackson can stay healthy and perform to that level like he did in the playoffs for a whole regular season. Ibaka's had his injury troubles. Batum's a nice player, but yeah. Terrence Mann, can he make a massive jump? Kennard, I thought, was disappointing over the course of the whole season. I mean, I just think when you take Kawhi out of that, there's just a little bit of a lack of talent. I think there's just more loaded teams in the Western Conference. But as you say, I think Ty Lue has really turned himself into a pretty good coach and solidified himself there. So maybe that's where they can make, jump a couple of positions and finish 5th or 6th is through that team chemistry and the coaching standpoint.
I had them exactly 8th as well, actually. And
I'm glad that wasn't a hot take from me then. I wasn't sure.
No, it wasn't too bad. But they've got the tools to make the playoffs and be a competitive team in some games. I mean, they were 4-4. It's 500, but they were going up against Utah and the Phoenix Suns last year in the playoffs and holding their own. And Bledsoe, he's could be a good bench piece coming off them. So there'll be one to watch. And maybe this is the year that we get rid of that playoff P nickname.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, maybe my thoughts about that being a hot take again came off the fact that I just listened to the Athletic podcast, and in that, as I said, they had the Warriors 9th, but they had the Clippers 5th. And again, I just shook my head and was just like, no, I don't think so. I have them 8th. So anyway, we'll wait and see where they finish. Hopefully, I like Paul George. And I've been a little bit, I've maybe been part of the kind of Paul George hating, I guess, with the playoffs and stuff in the past. But I genuinely want to see him do well, so hopefully he does, and we'll just see where the Clippers end up at the end of the regular season and pushing into the playoffs. But other than that, their crosstown rivals, the Lakers, are up next.
The rivals, actually, same building rivals, actually, the Los Angeles Lakers have had one of the craziest off seasons, I reckon, in a little while. The big ins: Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, and Dwight Howard for his third stint, Malik Monk, Kendrick Nunn, Rajon Rondo as of a few days ago, and no, I just took a drinks break. I'm going to take a drink of water. I still got to go. Probably the biggest. Re-signed Taylor Horton Tucker, but probably the biggest one was Russell Westbrook, the Brody, coming over. Whew, take a breath. The outs. Dennis the Menace, probably the most mean bloke over the offseason.
We didn't actually talk about the fact that Dennis went to the Celtics for $5.9 million. That's a sneaky good pickup, but we'll talk about Boston in another episode. Push on.
I don't mind that. Yeah, like Markieff Morris, Ben McLemore lost, Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl, Caruso, KCP, obviously all going to the Wizards, and Andre Drummond. Whew, one of the biggest off seasons.
It's a lot to go through, isn't it?
Yeah, we could talk about them for 3 hours, I reckon. So there's a lot to say. The age thing sticks out like a sore thumb. But my first question to you, actually, was in terms of X factors. Obviously, it's a term that's thrown around. Bigger X factor to you in terms of their success for the season, Westbrook or Anthony Davis? Who's the bigger X factor?
To quote Stephen A. Smith, is that a trick question? I don't. It's clearly Anthony Davis. I mean, Anthony Davis is so much a better player than Russell Westbrook. I'm sorry. That's what it is. Now, Russell Westbrook can stay healthy, at least, but Anthony Davis is the X factor because we know he's got the injury troubles and it's plagued him his whole career, really. But to be real, if Anthony Davis doesn't get injured, in the first round of the playoffs, they'll probably beat Phoenix. And then, who knows where they end up. They might win another NBA championship. I just think the health of Anthony Davis is probably the most important. Maybe outside the health of LeBron, it is the most important thing for the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think that's why the addition of Westbrook is probably a major positive, is that maybe it allows AD and LeBron to take some nights off a little bit more and to be able to give Russ the ball and let him handle things for a night or two here or there. But, the fit there with Westbrook doesn't make a whole lot of sense for mine, and I think it means that AD has to play more at the 5, and I know he doesn't want to do that, but yeah, it is what it is. It's clearly, in answer to your question, who's the bigger X factor, it's clearly Anthony Davis. Do you have any kind of argument to suggest it might be Russell Westbrook?
Maybe, even when I was writing this question, I was just thinking, Westbrook is a fitting next to Anthony Davis and LeBron, probably are average shooters at best. But I also will agree that it is Anthony Davis in the way of watching him in the 2020 NBA playoffs when he's fully healthy and firing. I don't think there's an answer for Anthony Davis in the NBA. I've never a guy with that skill set and the way he just elevates them to a whole new title contenders. So I think Russell Westbrook will get them through the regular season with his triple doubles. LeBron probably could carry them throughout the playoffs, but for them to be really like contenders against the other ones, AD needs to be like 2020. AD.
Can I just butt in there quickly? In response to that, I did see one answer for him. It was in the playing game when he was playing at the power forward position and Draymond Green locked him up. He flat out did, go watch the replay of the game, go watch the highlights or whatever, or the defensive highlights of Draymond Green against Anthony Davis in that game, especially in the first half. In the second half, AD moved to the 5. There was a bit more spacing around for him. That meant that he wasn't kind of pigeonholed to being, in the mid-post area kind of thing. He could kind of go more one-on-one without having the paint clogged with another center there kind of thing. So that's another reason why I just think he has to play center more often, because he's such a massive mismatch against centers, whether it be, an undersized center as such in Draymond, or whether it be, the bigger guys where he's just got that skill level and that athleticism to take them off the dribble, at the perimeter.
Well, he's in the middle of his prime. He should be dominating this league, and I think in terms of raw talent, I'll put him probably top three in the NBA in terms of just raw talent. But obviously, he doesn't have the production to back it up. You had some concerns about the age. You want to ask me about?
Yeah, well, just finishing on Anthony Davis, I had him for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year last year, I think, and yeah, and he was quite disappointing, and I know a lot of that had to do with injuries, but we'll see if he can bounce back. My mind on him, whether he can be an MVP candidate, has kind of gone out the window. I'm not sure. Like, is Anthony Davis ever going to win an MVP? I think he should, but I'm not sure he will necessarily. But yeah, the age. Let's get into it. They've got, I think, 6 of the 11 oldest players in the league or something. Like, It is quite ridiculous. They just get Rondo back, who is like 35, and he's quite old as well. It's just, I don't know if it's a meme yet. Well, it is a meme, really. But there's people that think like this will literally be a good thing. There's people that think all these guys are going to fall off a cliff and it's going to come to a sudden halt very quickly. Do you fear their age, or will the experience at the end of the day be a major positive, especially come playoff time?
Well, I just think they've tailored it to LeBron. And if you just look at his history, he only plays well with older people. I don't really mind the age too much. I'm more worried about defensive-minded first guys. So, like, Caruso and KCP are defensive-minded kind of guys. You throw them on the perimeter against anyone there. Like, Melo, I don't think he's ever played defense full stop in his life. Trevor Ariza, in his Houston days, was an elite defender, but he's obviously up there in age. Yeah. And it's hard. It's kind of, I see why they might have done it. I mean, young teams don't win in the playoffs. I mean, I just look at the Suns and I just think their age it just got too much for them in the finals. Yeah. And a lot of the contenders, I think I said a couple of episodes ago. I mean, your Warriors, you got most of your stars are over 30. I believe the KD, Harden stuff, they're the early 30s and stuff. But yeah, this is a whole nother a little bit more than early 30s. These guys. And I see the experience. I think it'd be a lot easier for them just to buy in. I mean, all Westbrook and Melo have to do is to win a ring in their lives. Ariza and stuff, they're not worried about stats, not worried about playing for big contracts like Dennis the Menace might have been. Everyone all they really have to do is just go all in for the ring. Do you see it more advantage or disadvantage their age?
I think it might be an advantage come playoff time. I don't think it'll be an advantage in the regular season because, come back-to-backs or something, they might struggle in some occasions. It might be a simple factor of it. But my interesting thing with their roster construction is I'm not sure who their best 5 are. So there's clearly, we know at the end of games there's going to be Russ out there, there's going to be AD out there, there's going to be LeBron out there. We understand that. Who are the other 2 guys? And at least from a positive point of view, that creates some flexibility because you can just put out the 2 guys that have played well in the first 3 quarters kind of thing. But then I look back at championship winning teams and a lot of them, you just know who the best 5 players are. If you look at the Warriors from their dynasty, you know it was Steph, Clay, Iguodala, Draymond, Durant. You knew that was their 5. Even if you look at the Bucks last year, you kind of knew it was going to be Holiday, Middleton, Giannis, Tucker, and Lopez. And if it wasn't Lopez, maybe it's Bobby Portis, or if they want some more shooting, they bring in Bryn Forbes to put Giannis kind of at the 5. You know what their best 5 was kind of thing. I just don't see that with their Lakers. Who are their other 2 going to be at the end of games?
So, if I was to predict, I reckon throughout the regular season will be Westbrook, Wayne Ellington at the 2, Ariza 3, Bron 4, Davis 5. That's their fourth quarter.
Do you need a centre though? Is AD going to play centre for the whole season? I don't think he is.
That's their fourth quarter team. I'm probably
okay. All right, yeah, that's fair enough.
I've seen Dwight Howard and Gasol can split up minutes. I've seen some links to DeAndre Jordan.
That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
That's literally he did absolutely nothing in the playoffs. So I don't know. Love it. But another team I'll probably watch every game of. Just being a LeBron fan and all the storylines coming from it.
They're going to be super fascinating with that. This weird mix of players in there that they've got now. Quite extraordinary. But let's get on to the nitty-gritty of it. Over underline 53.5, which I think was definitely the high. I think the highest, obviously in the Pacific, but also the highest in the West as well. Over or under for you?
probably a little bit over.
Yeah.
I think these old guys get injured pretty pretty often, and people in and out of the lineups.
So you think
what
overs in
about you?
terms of you think they'll win more games than they'll win more than
Oh, so
53 and a half
that line's a
games?
little bit too. No, that line's a bit too much over. Like, yeah, I reckon
Oh,
it'll be
you
closer
think
to
that
50,
line's
yeah.
overs, so you would take the unders?
Yeah, the lines. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
okay, sorry. Yeah,
What about you? What about you?
I think they might go over that. I think they might get 54, 50. So they need 54. They might get 56, 57. I think if they tried real hard, they could probably get 60 wins. But there's some teams that are built for the regular season, and there's some teams that are built for the playoffs and winning a championship at the end of the day. I think this team's built for trying to win a championship and just trying to get themselves into, a healthy position come playoff time. And it doesn't really necessarily matter where they finish in terms of the standings. So I'm going overs, but I'm sorry to be boring. It's just, I'm not going to bet on it. I'm not going to bet on the Lakers over underline. Where did you have them finishing in the Western Conference?
I had them finishing fourth.
Yeah, right.
They're just based off Westbrook and LeBron, just greatness on them during the regular season. Can't put any simpler than that. Where'd you have them?
I would think that you having them fourth is very low. I had them third. You love LeBron, and I've given them a better finish, I guess, than you have. That amazes me. That amazes me.
After all these episodes, finally you said something about more about LeBron. But I just think, they won't care about the regular season as much.
Yeah, that makes
all
sense.
they really want is just drag them just get to the playoffs and then go crazy from there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, although I do have them one position ahead. Anyway, next up, we're going to get to the reigning Western Conference champions. That's the Phoenix Suns.
The Phoenix Suns, reigning Western Conference champions, quite an incredible run of a playoff that they had last year. Just fell short. A few sneaky good ins I've found. JaVale McGee got him on for like $5 million. Alfred Payton comes back. Landry Shamet. And then for their outs, Antoine Moore, Langston Galloway, Javon Carter, Tyson Alexander. And obviously they re-signed CP3, Kaminsky, and Cameron Payne. Their season obviously just fell short. My first question to you, though, obviously their big three are CP3, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. Could you rank them in terms of importance to the Phoenix Suns? CP3, Ayton, and Booker.
That's tough. That is really tough. I think Booker, Paul Ayton still. Although I could see it changing. I could see Ayton becoming perhaps even more important than CP3. And in fact, if I was to argue where the improvement comes from, it's probably Ayton taking that next step into being a genuine all-star player, and then really solidifying that as a big three, I guess. Now, you could already say it's a big three, but a big three to me is kind of like three all-star caliber players. Mm-hmm. I don't think Ayton's quite at that level yet. He showed some form, I guess, in the playoffs last season that he will get to that level, but he's still got to string that together across the course of a regular season. Yeah, what did you have in terms of importance? I'm interested.
You should be interested. This might be my first hot take. So I've got CP3 number one in terms of importance because of his leadership, the intangibles, what he's always elevated. DeAndre Ayton 2, Booker 3rd.
Really?
Yes. In the way, I think you touched on it before, Anthony Davis, can he really be an MVP and stuff? I have a hesitancy of shooting guards and power forwards carrying.
You said this last week.
Yeah, I do. And I want to drive this point home to if someone agrees with me. But I don't think shooting guards and power forwards can necessarily carry a team. And I think Ayton can have more of a physical impact on the game. I saw how Giannis beat up the Suns in the finals. I look at LeBron's, I look at the Cade, these physical freaks who can just impose themselves. And why I think CP3 almost fell short is, he can control the tempo of a game, but at the end of the day, he's 6 foot. He probably doesn't have that big of a wingspan. He's quite limited physically in terms of how he can impact a game. And with Ayton's skill set, the way he improved almost every series, he went back. Anthony Davis was injured towards the end, but he went up against Anthony Davis, Jokic, and then some plays against Ayton. So I think, in terms of, as you know, I say the NBA's in the bigs league, and with the way it's trending, I think Ayton can have a more impact on a game at this stage.
Okay.
Is that?
Can I ask you a question? I want you to make this statement for me. Well, I'm going to make the statement, and you tell me if you agree or not.
Oh God.
Okay, this is what I've gotten from what you just said.
All right.
For the Phoenix Suns to win an NBA championship, DeAndre Ayton has to be a better player than Devin Booker.
Yes. No, I'm happy to.
That is a massive call.
I'm happy to sign that. I think, yeah, you do need, especially with the way the NBA is, with the bigs coming in, you need an elite level big. I think so.
I don't know. I'll take a bit of offense to that because I'm a real Devin Booker. I'm a massive Devin Booker fan.
Yep.
I love Devin Booker. I love his game.
Okay.
I just take offense to that a little bit, but I don't know. I understand where you're coming from. I do get that. But yeah. So my question back to you is, do you think Ayton can take that leap? And are you buying their incredible run that they had last season? Are they still a championship contender to you?
I think I answered this in a few episodes ago. I was very critical of their thing. I thought they just got a lot of lucky breaks and everything. And I'm going to say more luck than anything. And they're not back to title contention unless Ayton takes that. I reckon for them to be title, he needs to be top 5 big at a minimum.
But will he be? So you're saying that he won't be? If you're saying they're not title contender. Not yet. Okay.
I still think he's too young, but I love, I guess, what I get from what I see. I can almost sense he obviously wants to be great, and obviously the CP3 impact on his career has been absolutely amazing. Yeah, it certainly has that potential, but I think they're going to be a very good regular season team, but they might get hampered again come.
Okay. Okay. So with the over-under line at 50.5. Are you taking over 50.5 wins or under 50.5 wins?
Yeah, because I think they're going to be I'm going to go overs because they're going to be a great regular season team. I had them finishing third in the West. What do you overs unders? You punt.
Yeah, I had them overs. And I like it. This is the first one where I'm saying I might, depending on where I land with some others moving forward, I might take this one on. I like the overs, but I'm like you. I actually, apart from the little bit of offense I just took to the Devin Booker slander, I'm not sure if it was Devin Booker slander or you're just being a real fan of DeAndre Ayton. But anyway,
I reckon, no, it's more. I love Ayton. Okay,
all right, fair enough. I like the overs on this team, and I've actually gone one ahead of you again. I've got them second, but I agree with you in the sense that, do I think that the Lakers or the Suns are more chance of winning the championship? I'm taking the Lakers, even though I had them finishing fourth, and I had them finishing third, and the Suns second. You had the Lakers fourth. I still can't get over that. I think that playoff basketball, I'd rather the Lakers, but over the course of a regular season, the Suns with their youth, I guess, compared to the Lakers, I've got them winning more games than the Lakers over the course of the regular season. That's why I have them finishing second. And given that line at 50.5, I do like that.
I applaud their just off-season move. JaVale McGee got for a very cheap contract, and JaVale McGee has been a great little role player for teams in the past. Alfred Payton, Shamet, that's both young players, more depth. So I'm very happy with them over the regular season, but. That's might be my first.
Like a bit of firepower, maybe come playoff time. We'll just wait and see. I do tend to agree a bit. They maybe got a little bit lucky to get to the NBA finals, but you got to take that luck at the end of the day, and they didn't quite take it fully. They were obviously 2-1 up in that NBA finals. But next up, we've gone through some really, really good teams here, and we get to finish off the Pacific Division with the Sacramento Kings.
Oh Lord.
Alrighty, we're up to the last team. The first 4 teams we all went through, both of us had all four teams making the playoffs. That might change, I think. Just putting a little feeler out there. That might change as we talk about the Sacramento Kings. Their ins and outs across the off-season. In comes Alex Len. Davion Mitchell through the draft. I think that was a good pickup. Tristan Thompson. Out goes DeLon Wright, Kyle Guy, Hassan Whiteside, Justin James. And re-signed was Rashawn Holmes, Terrence Davis, and Maurice Harkless. I don't think any of what they did is really moving the needle much from a team that's been really disappointing for years now. My question to you, Lee, is can you see a genuine direction? Where's the upwards trajectory come from? Because to me, I just continue to look at this team year after year, and they've just plateaued into like a bottom 5 team for what feels like forever.
It does feel like forever. I think they hold the record for longest drought without any sort of playoffs. And I see, again, no direction whatsoever. I think it's the cost of hesitating with so many things. Like, they've got this plethora of guards back there. I mean, signing Tristan Thompson, a guy that's restricted to the paint, and then re-signing Rashard Holmes, who's also restricted to the paint. The hesitancy, the lack of poor development, everything's just in a horrible makeup. They do get, there's obviously Mitchell now looks like a great pick, but obviously there's they've got a lot of big decisions ahead. Do you, no way you see any sort of different, you don't see a different Kings this season, surely?
I don't really, they need a year where, because I kind of look at their high draft picks and they haven't really had a top 3 pick. Sorry, they had Bagley, I should say. They had Marvin Bagley, but they failed. They could have had Trae Young or Luka Doncic. That was their chance to get a franchise cornerstone. And as good as De'Aaron Fox is, and I put in the group chat, a couple of weeks ago, I think that he averaged 25 and 7 last year, which kind of went under the radar. Like, that's good numbers. But to me, I look at De'Aaron Fox and I question the value of his contract for one thing, but I also don't think he's the piece of a winning franchise. I think he can be a good number 2, maybe even a number 3. I don't think he's a number 1. And with him as the number 1 player on that team, I just don't think they're going into playoff contention. I just don't think it's happening. So for me, they need a total reset. Whether that's trying to trade Fox for someone that they think can be a number 1 guy, or just trading Fox to help tank. Literally to help tank. Try and get themselves back in a position where they can get a top 3 pick. Because getting like Davion Mitchell and Tyrese Halliburton, they might end up really good selections at their respective picks. Like what? Mitchell was 9, obviously Halliburton I think was 12 last year.
That's right.
They could be really good picks. That could be a starting backcourt. But I don't think either of those guys project to be franchise cornerstones number 1 on successful teams. Like you look at some of these younger teams that are down the bottom, they have a direction because they have that guy in place. If you look at the Pistons now with Cade Cunningham, even the Rockets with Jalen Green, OKC with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander kind of thing. I just don't have De'Aaron Fox in that kind of, some might compare him, I guess, to SGA and say they're on a similar level. I just have SGA ahead of him, and I think SGA can be the cornerstone of a franchise. I just don't see it in De'Aaron Fox. Am I off the mark here, or?
I couldn't agree more. And it's more that I see no form of leadership from their front office, from their coaches. I don't see anyone on their court making that. Like, yeah, Fox is exciting and stuff, but who do you know he's really made better on the court? I think a total rebuild at a minimum would have to be. And I think they're cursed or something because Bagley's second. And then Aiden, all those blokes pretty much being generational talents, it looks like some of them. So it must be something. But I think my question to you, obviously the plethora of guards they've got, Fox, Mitchell and Halliburton, I've got a bit of a game for you. So start one of them, bench one of them, and then cut one of them out of the Fox, Mitchell and Halliburton. How would you play it?
I'd start Halliburton, bench Mitchell, and I'm sorry, I like De'Aaron Fox. Wow. I'm going to put that out there. I like De'Aaron Fox, but for the good of this franchise moving forward, I think they need to get rid of him.
Wow.
Because, you know what, he's the only player on that roster who, you know what he is. You kind of know what he is now. Mm-hmm. Like Halliburton still, you're not sure what you're going to get. Davion Mitchell, there's still kind of potential there. You know what De'Aaron Fox is, and what he is a really good player, but as I continually say, he's not the cornerstone of a franchise. So I just would try and move him on in order to either get a player who I think can be the cornerstone of a franchise, or at least help you tank, as I said, and try and get that person in the draft. I don't know what it is. I would move on De'Aaron Fox because not only that, I think Tyrese Halliburton and Davion Mitchell can take control of that backcourt. And you've still got Buddy Hield there as well. I don't know if there's a way that, Sacramento could from a Philadelphia point of view, I'd be interested in De'Aaron Fox and maybe even a Buddy Hield. You try and combine De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield and send Ben Simmons to Sacramento or something. That's what I'd be looking at from a Philly point of view. As one of the best kind of options that I could get for Ben Simmons. Now, I know the salaries, you'd have to try and add something on top of Simmons for the salaries to work out and whatnot. I understand that. But, I mean, from a Philly aspect, if I'm looking at a team of, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, I think De'Aaron Fox can be the second guy next to Joel Embiid. And I don't want to get this into a Philly thing, but this is just, I guess, a perspective of what I would do with De'Aaron Fox. Now, maybe you don't need to go get Ben Simmons. Maybe it's a three-way trade. I just think they need to just get really shit. Get really shit. And just get another top 3 pick and hope to hell that you don't bottle it and stuff it up this time, like you did taking Bagley when you had Trae Young and Luka Doncic on the board.
That will haunt them forever. See, but maybe the second hot take, I should have warned you about these hot takes as well. I've gone the opposite way. I'd start Fox, I'd bench Halliburton, and I'd cut Mitchell.
But are you talking about trading? So you trade Davion Mitchell?
Traded Davion Mitchell. I just think...
But you just drafted him at number 9. That's just not going to happen.
I don't think there's the rules behind that.
For what is the question?
It's more, I'm very high on Fox. I reckon what you said is a possible number 2, I reckon, as a lead guard. I love the fact that Fox and Halliburton can play make as well. Maybe I just haven't seen enough from Mitchell that he can be an elite level playmaker. And I think Fox has all the tools to be a great... I'm going to start thinking it's just the fact that he's in Sacramento. Something must be happening in that stadium.
Maybe that's it. And maybe... I'm being a bit harsh on De'Aaron Fox, and maybe I actually need you wait and see for him to be at another organisation.
Well, what you just said it yourself there, mate. I know what I'm going to get from you. I'm going to get high intensity. He's an athletic freak. I think he's the fastest player in the NBA, if not one of. And I think I'd love to see him. He's still young. Get him in a franchise where winning is a thing, or no, just leadership. I just want to see in a franchise where there's leadership, where there's strong leadership in the front office, or it's the coach, just somewhere where he can actually and doesn't have to worry about pretty much running the entire franchise. And Halliburton, I think they've got, thank God, that pick worked out finally from them. So, but I think you and I
just backtrack really quickly from the fact you said you're going to start Fox, and now you're talking about you really want to see him at a different organisation?
Yeah, well, I think that's what I want to cut. I want to cut Mitchell because I think
all right.
Been pretty easy.
That doesn't make much sense to me because you just drafted him and you don't know what he is, and I'm not sure what you'd get back for him at this point.
So why I'd start him is because I think he does so well, even if he's in a shit situation. So,
okay. All right.
We'll go from there. Where the line was 34.5, I believe. It sounds like you have them right under.
Well, I have them under, but it's a no bet. I'm not betting on Sacramento because if I start betting on these kind of things, then it forces me to watch teams play and just see how the bet lands. And like Phoenix, I'm happy to go watch Phoenix play every game. Like I'm happy to turn on the TV and watch my man Booker and Ayton and CP3 going at it and playing every night. That's great.
Right.
I don't want to watch Sacramento. I don't want to turn on the TV and just be like, can't wait to hopefully watch Sacramento lose. So this, futures bet that I've got on gets up in 6-7 months time. Like I've no interest in that. So I'll take the unders, but I'm not betting on it. Where did you have them? Because I have them 13th, and hopefully they're worse than that from their sake. They just need to try and get another top 3 pick.
I had them 12th, so not that much different.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to rack my brain if I've ever sat down and watched a full Kings game, even when like LeBron's playing or like Marty's playing. I don't think so. I don't think I have.
There's just again, there's not that franchise player, so there's no one to necessarily draw you to that team. That's the other thing. Like, if Ben Simmons went to Sacramento, I'd actually have some interest in just watching how his career played out in Sacramento kind of thing, and I'd actually start watching Kings games. Right now, why do I turn on a Kings game for? I don't know. Like, I just don't do it.
Have a laugh, maybe, just to
something needs to happen. But anyway, before we wrap it up, we'll get into our best bet each from the Pacific Division. Alrighty, let's wrap it up here with kind of our best bet, and the most confident over-under line that I have is the Phoenix Suns over 50.5 wins. I just think they're made to be really good again in the regular season. Obviously had them finishing second. Lee, what is the most confident over-under line you have?
I also had the Phoenix Suns. I reckon they're primed for a fantastic regular season. So
even though we're debating whether they're going to do anything in the playoffs, as we say, they are a regular season team. If we are saying that, and if we both, which we did, have them above the LA Lakers, then I'm going to make this the best bet of the Pacific Division, and that is the Phoenix Suns to win the Pacific Division. The Lakers are at $2 favorites. This is with Sportsbet. Lakers are $2, Suns $3.30, Warriors $7, Clippers $9, Kings $301. Let's book it. I might put money on this. In fact, I'm gonna put my stamp of approval down. I'm going to have a little sneaky bet on the Phoenix Suns at $3.30 to win the Pacific Division. I'm not saying they're better than the Los Angeles Lakers in terms of come playoff time and winning a championship, but if you are all in for it, why don't we do it?
Why not, mate? Why not? Kings 300?
I mean, you could just chuck a couple of dollars on the Kings and maybe they make a trade for Simmons and Simmons turns into LeBron, which we've all been waiting for the last 5 or 6 years. But anyway, let's finish it up there to cap it off with the Phoenix Suns, our best bet to win the Pacific Division at $3.30. Other than that, guys, we'll be back in around a week's time to go through another division on the way towards the 2021-22 NBA season. Cheers, guys.